My name's Harriet. I hack your AI so the bad guys can't.
Hello. Whew, I am very tired. I'm in Sydney for a couple of nights because I'm speaking at a conference not just once, but 3-4 times. Tomorrow I'm giving the keynote talk at 9 a.m. at Hack Sydney Cybersecurity Conference. And this is something that I do a lot as part of my job. But I thought this would be a really great opportunity to create a video for you guys on something that I do quite a lot and I've grown to love, but I used to find really scary, and I know that a lot of people do find it scary. I'm going to talk about public speaking. 10, 15 years ago when I started, giving talks at school as part of class, that one day I would be delivering keynotes to rooms full of people specifically at a technical cybersecurity conference. And I hope that this serves as encouragement for you if you're not sure about ever being able to develop the confidence in public speaking that you absolutely can. And so this video is going to be about sharing some of those techniques with you about how you can build confidence in speaking, as well as giving you some more practical tips about how to give a good talk. Now, I'm getting quite hungry, and I've also been doing a lot of sitting today, so I really want to go do my exercise. But the first thing I want to talk about is the night before. So I've been doing a lot of speaking this week, but tomorrow's keynote is, the focal point of this video. A keynote talk is a big deal. So it's the night before my talk. I obviously started preparing. If I'm giving a talk like this, a long time ago, I got asked to give this talk maybe 2 or 3 months ago now. And while I didn't necessarily start writing it then, whenever I was going for a walk, whenever I was driving, whenever I was exercising, I would just try and give myself mental space to think of ideas about what it could be about and then jot it down. It can be tricky sometimes when you actually don't have a specific topic handed to you. You just kind of have to be creative and come up with something. But everyone usually goes back to a core set of skills or topics that they like to talk about and that they were selected for. And so the 3 things that I would consider my core skills are cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and I guess this is a little less, at least in terms of I don't use it in a professional setting, but the third one I would say is actually anthropology, because this is something that I learnt at university and is something that I still take an active interest in, and also adds a little bit of breadth to the more technical things that I know about. So I decided that my talk would be something about my core skill group, which is AI security, but then thinking about humans and how that impacts humanity. And so the talk I'm giving tomorrow is called Artificial Intelligence versus Biological Intelligence, and why humans and humanity is more important now than ever. So I started thinking about that idea a few months ago, and then probably 3 weeks before the talk, I started actually putting pen to paper, creating the slides, and then as soon as I had a draft, I would then sort of revisit it whenever I had a new idea. I have a notes app where I can quickly capture notes if I think of it while I'm out, and then I'll go add it to the deck later. In terms of actually coming up with the speech, I don't tend to write speeches out. I usually just have slides and a few notes, and I then refer to those. And that can be really scary when you're starting out. I do encourage you to have a speech written out if you're feeling not so confident about it, because it at least just helps you build that confidence, knowing that if you need to, you can resort to that paper. But once you sort of get over some of those initial hurdles, I actually find it really helpful to not have it written out, because it encourages me not to rely on them too much, as long as I don't forget my key points, which I will have written somewhere. As the night before, tonight I will do a timed run through. A lot of people say that when it comes to public speaking, it almost seems as though people who give really good talks just come up with them on the fly, or it just comes out of nowhere from their imagination, or their, incredible gift. But that's not true at all. Really good speakers are usually really good because they're very prepared and because they give that same speech a lot. So I will always do a timed run through of a speech that I'm going to give, so I know how much time it takes for me to deliver something, so that I can cut down if I need to or add more content, and to just have practice saying the words, and then it gives me confidence doing it in front of people when I know that I've already delivered it before, even if it's on my own. Sometimes I will also record myself giving speeches, and then I can see what specific style areas I need to improve on. For example, this YouTube journey has really taught me that I say and so a lot, which is interesting and I can't necessarily control, but I'm doing my best to get a bit better about saying those filler words. The other thing that's really important about the night before giving a talk is that I will make sure that I get enough sleep. I'm feeling very tired. I'm always tired. I run my own business. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of work. But I always make sure to at least try and get my 8 hours, because I know that I'm a lot more productive during the day. And especially if I'm giving a speech, I need to be able to think on my toes pretty well. So I'm going to go to bed nice and early tonight. And you know me, I'm going to be buying some cheap flights, so I really need to wrap this up so that I can head out and then come back and buy next year's flights on sale before I go to bed and get my 8 hours. Hey, it's the morning of the talk. I have to be there in 26 minutes. So I've just got back from the gym because I always go do some kind of exercise in the mornings. I do like a gym session in the mornings and then a sort of lighter walk in the evenings. That was my exercise yesterday. But it's important to keep my routine, because then I just feel like in the best mental state to be able to do a good talk. And especially because the talk, it helps me get all the nervous energy out. So I never miss a workout. I would rather miss an hour's sleep than miss a workout. But ideally I'd have both. I've also got my coffee. This is coffee number 2 of the day. I always start my morning with like just 30 minutes sitting, drinking my coffee, looking through the news, doing a bit of Instagram scrolling, just sort of waking up. But this is coffee number 2. I could not survive without my coffee. That's also essential that I get before a talk. Otherwise my brain will just not be switched on enough. I don't have many vices, but my need and addiction for coffee is definitely one of them. So I'm going to shower, change, head over to the venue, and do the talk. Something I do always try and keep in mind, both when I'm creating it and when I'm delivering it, is that I'm thinking about the audience and that they want to hear. I listen to a lot of talks that are really, like, especially because I go to cyber conferences a lot, talks that are really great technically, and sometimes it's often seen as though it's the technical content that's first and most important, and then presentation skills are just kind of, if you can present well then that's great, but if not, it doesn't really matter. Whereas I think about some of the great speeches that I've seen, and they've been great because the presenter's been excellent, and they could have spoken about literally anything and it would have been really interesting to me. So I'm definitely not there yet, that's not what I was saying, but that is what I aspire to. Like, I genuinely believe that if you can present well, that's almost as, if not more important than the content that you're presenting. But obviously at a technical conference, even if I'm giving the keynote, which isn't meant to be technical, I have to make sure that I know what I'm talking about as well. Thinking about the audience doesn't have to mean like the content is boring or not technical. From my perspective, it just means that I'm putting myself in the audience's shoes. You know, if I'm talking about AI, what do they want to hear? How do they want to hear it? You know, what's going to stop them from falling asleep? It's thinking about all of those things from all of the really good talks that I've seen and the kinds of the kind of style that I want to borrow from those other really great speakers. 32 past 8. So I just got home after that conference and I thought I'd give you a bit of a recap and summarize the key points that I discussed while I was on the road at this conference. So to put that conference in perspective, over the course of 8 days, I gave 11 different kinds of talks and it culminated in that conference. That was the last few days. And it was a mixture of lots of different kinds of talks. So obviously I mostly discussed the keynote while I was there, but I also gave different kinds of technical workshops. I gave a couple of standard conference talks about my work, and then I gave a couple of other sort of pilot workshops for new content for my own company. So it was a real mixture of different kinds of talks. So let me recap on the key points that I guess I showed you through my journey in delivering a talk, but to really wrap it up so that you have some key takeaways. So the first thing I discussed was to start thinking about the talk and the topic that you want to deliver 2 to 3 months in advance. Now, while I gave this sort of timeline, obviously different timeframes work differently for everyone, so don't feel like there's one right way to do it. This is just how I like to do it. Also, I gave that timeline as the first time that I was delivering that particular keynote talk. However, generally, people who speak a lot tend to give the same talk over and over. So just because you see someone up on stage who looks really well rehearsed, it definitely doesn't mean that this is the first time they've delivered that. They would typically deliver it, dozens and dozens of times. So a few of the workshops that I delivered over this week were talks that I delivered at least a dozen times before, if not maybe more. Parts of those talks I could deliver in my sleep. So practice really does make perfect. So if you want to get really, really good at public speaking, just practice a lot. But if we're thinking about creating a new talk, 2 to 3 months is usually a time frame I like because it gives me enough time to sit on it, to feel creative, to not feel hurried. And because I'm not a procrastinator, I'm the total opposite. I'm a precrastinator. I usually get quite anxious about anything that's on my to-do list, even if it's a very long way away. So I like to start really early because the closer I get to the deadline personally, the less able I am to deliver quality work. One of the really important things is to keep in mind the format of the talk you're giving and the audience. So this could mean a number of different things. For a keynote, for example, it is far more about the story and the narrative arc and sharing insightful takeaways to a more general audience. That is a typical sort of keynote. However, for more technical talks, you might want to focus more on presenting really well-researched findings, making sure that you have lots of references, talking about lots of case studies, and then structuring it, still keeping in mind the narrative, but where the evidence and the content is more important than storytelling. I would say, however, that whatever kind of talk you're delivering, you should always keep the audience in mind. So whether that's the type of content that they'll want to see, but also thinking about them not getting bored. Just because you're delivering a technical talk doesn't mean that you should only focus on the content and not care at all about the delivery or the audience's engagement or enjoyment. I think they're both really important. If you do have time to practice, I also highly recommend it. Here are a few key points around storytelling and developing a narrative arc. Something I like to use is to use present tense when I'm delivering a story. So instead of saying, the man walked into the hotel lobby and it was magnificent. Fine, that's a story. But if I say, imagine you're in the man's shoes. You're walking down the street, you turn to your left and you see a beautiful gilded arch doorway. You walk in and suddenly you're surrounded by this incredible hotel lobby. Doesn't that totally change the way that you feel the story? There's lots of little tricks you can integrate into your talk to make the audience feel like they're there with you. They're on this story and this adventure with you. Okay, 2 to 3 weeks before the talk is when I would start to really refine my content, put it in a PowerPoint deck, write up some key points, and become really clear on what stories or what case studies I'm delivering as part of my narrative. Some key tips to include about designing slides is that you should be the focus of the talk, and whatever you're saying is the focus of the audience. Your slides shouldn't distract from that, so don't have lots of weird colors, don't have too much, don't have a lot of text, just have a few clean either points that they should take away from the story that you're saying, or maybe a picture, or maybe some kind of visual aid like a graph that adds weight or evidence to your story. Don't make your slides too busy, they're there to see you, not your slides. If you are delivering a talk for the first time, this is also a good time to rehearse in front of other people. So get comfortable delivering it to small groups of friends. And honestly, I find this the hardest part. There's something easier almost about delivering a talk to strangers because they don't, you don't care, they don't know you. But delivering it to friends, that's when I start to feel really nervous. So if you can deliver to your friends and family, then you can deliver to a bunch of strangers. So you obviously saw me the day before and the day of the talk. I think I was pretty calm. It's important to keep calm. It's important to do the things that you know you need to do to make sure that you're in the best frame of mind. So for me, that's keeping part of my routine. It's working out the morning of, it's making sure I get a lot of sleep, eating healthy, feeling prepared, so doing a timed run through, making sure that I'm mentally ready to arrive at the venue and know that I've given myself the best chance of success. You didn't really see me much the day of the speech. At the venue anyway, I didn't really feel like vlogging, and I caught up with a bunch of friends and work colleagues, so that was really nice. My top tips: coffee 1 hour before the talk. This is how long I know it takes for me to feel at my best. You know that I'm a coffee addict, so if I went up to give a talk without having my coffee, I don't know what I would do, honestly. Also, make sure you have a lot of water. Make sure you structure into your day the ability to do things like get your coffee, get water, go to the bathroom, feel comfortable in what you're wearing. There's nothing worse than going on stage and realizing, oh my god, my dress is a bit short, or if I sit down, people can see up my skirt. Like, they're all stressful thoughts you don't want to have. Make sure that you're prepared for the venue that you're at. Make sure that you're comfortable and confident in your clothes. That helps me a lot. Something that can really help if you're delivering at a new venue that you haven't seen before is to actually go to the venue. If you can go the day before and sort of see the stage setup, it's really helpful to know. For example, I usually have my laptop with me. I'll operate my slides either from my laptop or through a clicker. I often do demos as part of my talk, so I really need to be able to have access to my laptop so that I can, they're coding demos, so that I can actually run the code. And I need to make sure that I have Wi-Fi so that I can connect to my cloud infrastructure to run those demos. So all of those little administrative and logistics things, make sure that you have sorted the day before. You don't want to get to the venue and then realize that the internet's dodgy, or you don't have the right adapters, or that they don't have a podium for you to put your laptop on. All those things, having that out of the way the day before means that you can go there and be really confident about what you're doing, and you just can focus on you giving the talk. If you feel more comfortable taking a copy of your speech or little note cards, do it. Just do everything that will help you feel your most confident. Sometimes it's difficult or not appropriate, and that's fine. Just work your way up to being able to feel confident with as few notes as possible. Doing lots of additional speaking practices, like meetups or rostrum speeches or YouTube, they're all good practice at speaking, and the more you do of that, the more comfortable you'll get. Okay, it is now sort of the day after, for me at least, so things that I focus on doing now are thinking about ways that I can improve that talk. So I'm lucky that I actually have part of it recorded, which I wouldn't always have, but now that I have this vlogging camera, it's a bit easier to do. So I will often go through my talk and watch it back, and there's always so many things I realize I can improve. And it's great because I think once you sort of get to the point where you're 80% happy and confident with how you're presenting and how you're delivering, that's fantastic, and that's most of the way. But it can be that last 20% that's the hardest to attain, and I feel like that's sort of where I'm at now. I'm just trying to perfect what I have, knowing that I already feel pretty confident, but getting that extra level of perfection is really challenging. But every time I watch myself back, I always find lots of things that I can improve on. But while I say that, it's really important the day after to, take time to celebrate the fact that you just gave a talk. No matter how many talks you've given, whether it's your first, whether it's your 100th, there's always a big rush of adrenaline to get up there. So just celebrate the fact that you've achieved this milestone and relax, enjoy it, soak it up, and then keep hustling. It can also be really helpful to ask people for feedback too. Usually people feel uncomfortable giving feedback, or they'll just be like, oh, it's great. But if you can find those people who give you really good constructive feedback, and not just about your style, but also like the so what, try and get feedback from as many different people as possible, because they all have a unique perspective on what works and what doesn't. That can be really helpful too. And then plan for your next talks. Figure out whether you want to deliver the same talk again, change it a bit, or deliver something completely different. I encourage you to just keep putting yourself out there and keep doing it. I certainly never thought when I started public speaking as part of school, really, in primary school, I was so scared, and the first time I had to give a talk, I dropped all my palm cards on the floor, and then I couldn't put them back in the right order, so I kind of just sat down, and it was literally a TV episode of Lizzie McGuire kind of stuff, like total fail. From all our failures, we always learn a lot, and so I just kept putting myself out there. I joined debating in high school, and that was honestly the best thing I did in high school. That was the only thing, actually, I think I did in high school, apart from passing with good grades, that set me up for future success. There is no replacement for just practicing public speaking and getting used to different topics and different styles of talking, and having to feel confident and, rebut people. Like it was really stressful, and over time it became really fun. And now public speaking and delivering workshops is such a joy that I left my previous job so I could do more of it. So if you're nervous about public speaking but you want to get better at it, I promise you can, because I did. So hang in there and let me know what you thought of this video. Let me know if you want to try public speaking, if you've given a speech now, and if any of these tips were helpful for you, please like the video. Comment down below. I really want to know your experience, and if there's anything else I can add. Like I said, I give a lot of different kinds of talks, so if you're interested in seeing content more specific to delivering a technical talk or a less technical, more narrative talk, let me know and I'm happy to put something together. Speaking of which, please subscribe so that you don't miss when I do that, and I'll see you in the next episode.